I'm Matt Carter. I'm studying a Bachelor of Music Performance and I'm fourth year. None. I will defer any study for next year and make being president my full-time job essentially, because it is a position that deserves full-time attention, and it's a position that students should expect their president to give everything they've got to the role to ensure that they can generate, create, and advocate the best outcomes for students, whether that be through activism or through working to push management towards better student-focused policies and ideas. I believe it's very much up to the person, and I don't know any particular person's sort of threshold for what they can cope. 1 or 2 units, I imagine someone could do, but what happens if those units clash with an academic board meeting? What happens if those units clash with a preparation session with the caseworkers before a major meeting with, for example, the Vice Chancellor? It's just the sort of idea that you will miss out on the opportunity to represent students if you have to be in a class or if you have to be in an assessment. So it's really up to the individual, but that's why I would dedicate myself entirely to the role of president, so that I have the flexibility to serve students fully. If I win the presidency, my top priorities will be ensuring that the university has a safe return to learning on campus post-COVID-19, whether that be in regard to additional vaccination opportunities for students across main campus, satellite campuses, whether that be ensuring that online classes are capped at the same level as in-person classes, so that students who are still overseas or students who are interstate or even students that are unable to attend university for health concerns or health reasons aren't disadvantaged and have the same high quality of education and the same standard of learning as everyone that manages to attend in person. If I had to make budget cuts to the SRC, I would probably start by looking at the student stipends, in all honesty. I would probably look at past stipend performance, past staff, past student performance, and see what roles are perhaps receiving more than the work that's implied, and then investigate that there. Of course, that would be in consultation with the executive, with the affected students, and with probably standing legal committee and council itself, to make sure that it's the SRC's decision, not just mine solely as president, but that I lead this, that I lead the discussion around what is equitable and what will allow the SRC to continue to be a viable organization in the future. I think the involvement of the SRC president in Oniswa should be entirely what is regulated and constitutionally mandated. I think the president should purely be that final check for any defamation or any sort of writing that may bring the SRC into any legal trouble or any major dispute that could, in the end, cause significant harm to the council and to potentially the entire student body, understanding how the council works as an unincorporated association. I think it's just as important that students have representation in the SRC as it is that any student has representation in the SRC. I think it is a students' representative council. And at the end of the day, we are all students trying to improve life for students, regardless of what faction, regardless of what political beliefs we have. We want to make student experience better, and we want to represent those that we're friends with, those that have shared experiences with us. And I think that regardless of campus, every student deserves a voice to council in one form or another. Every student deserves to be considered by the office bearers. Every student deserves to be considered by the executive and by the president. And I will bring that to my presidency. I will put students at the center of everything we do. And I will make sure that every student, regardless of whether I know them or not, has the opportunity to consult, has the opportunity to be heard, and will have their concerns brought to the university, brought to the SRC, and brought into the focus of the SRC's mission, which is to represent students. I think the SRC's response to the austerity measures should be much stronger than what the SRC has already done. Yes, the SRC has contributed in working with the NTU and the CPSU to oppose course cuts, to oppose staff cuts, but I think the SRC can do so much more. The SRC can really, really push forward on the advocacy front. It can continue pushing as it has done brilliantly under the current education officers on the activism front, but it can really negotiate with the university and try to ensure that students get the best outcomes. And that's my own personal experience, particularly with the course cuts to the jazz course of the Conservatorium of Music. I was in meetings and I advocated very, very strongly against these cuts. And I brought financial information to the table. I brought a contextualization of the university's position. And at the end of the day, we defeated those cuts. And we defeated them quite quickly after the NTEU kind of said it's up to students to fight this fight. So that's the experience I bring, not only as someone who's defeated course cuts, who's defeated austerity measures, and who's put students at the center, but as a president who actually cares about what students experience. And I will bring that experience and that passion to the presidency next year to ensure that students get the best deal out of anything the university proposes. I think I'm better suited because I've done it successfully already, extensively. The course cuts to the jazz course were large. They were 39%. It would have seen extensive staff redundancies. It would have seen casualization increase and casual staff lose their work. It would have seen students receive such a low quality of education that it's not worth the money they would pay for the degree. And it's my experience in fighting that and fighting that successfully and fighting course cuts since my first year, actually, where I opposed to the dean the changing of some hours with another course at the con, that I would bring to this role. I would bring experience and I would bring success, past successes, and a sort of pathway to future successes. I'm running for president as myself. I'm running for president as someone who is passionate about what students need and what students deserve, and as someone who is absolutely dedicated to creating the best outcome for students. Student Unity has an amazing team of vibrant, very, very intelligent students who can have a really healthy sort of discourse and a robust discussion on issues. And I love that about Student Unity. But at the end of the day, it's a non-binding faction. And my policies are my own. What I bring to the presidency is my own. And I'm just fortunate enough to have the support of not only Student Unity, but hundreds of students across the university who share my vision for the SRC, who see my policies as the policies that will bring the SRC closer to what students need and deserve from their representative council. As I've said, my policies are my own. They are constructed from my own experience. I come from the Blue Mountains in a working class family. My parents both have educational backgrounds. My brother's a nurse, and I myself have a background in education. And I bring that sort of dedication to understanding what students want and need. I have the lived experience of students. I've been through the process of special considerations. I've been through the process of needing academic appeals. I've used the SRC's casework services. I've used the SRC's legal services. And I understand how that can have a real impact in students' lives. And that's why so many students across the university, regardless of their own political beliefs, believe in me. They believe in what I will bring to this role. And at the end of the day, we're all students. We all have these same experiences. We all struggle with university bureaucracy. We all struggle with our own problems in regard to study and workloads. And we all have that shared universal experience, particularly the last 2 years of COVID's impact on our education. And it's this combined unity of students that really provokes and is what urges my policies to be so student focused. And that's what I will bring to the presidency, a student focused presidency that will try to make and will make the best changes for students that I can. I am strongly opposed to the federal government's job ready package. I've written a couple of Oniswar articles about its impact, particularly on the creative arts and arts as a broader definition within universities. I've written to MPs, I've attended protests, I've donated to causes, and I've worked as hard as I can to oppose those with a very limited position of just being one student in one place. And it's these cuts and this attack on universities that led me to run for the SRC in the first place, because I'm so passionate about trying to undo this damage that's been done to students and create a vibrant education that isn't just for the rich, that isn't just for those who have the accessibility for it. And at the end of the day, anyone who chooses to support me is supporting me based on my policies, and I'm an open book. That is one of my policies. That is one of my stances. That is one of my very strong political beliefs. And if someone chooses to support me in spite of that, or regardless of that, then they see a stronger vision. They see a stronger vision that will put students first, because as I said, we are students. And that is what the SRC is there to represent. We are there to represent students whilst also having a discourse of the larger political global scale. Platform is different to theirs because I bring students more to the center of what I'm trying to achieve. Yes, I am progressive. Yes, I will lobby for the university, fight for the university to divest from fossil fuels, fight for the university to divest from weapons, and I will work to restore courses that have been cut. I will work to prevent courses from being cut. And I am progressive, there's no question there. But I also have policies that have heard the student voice. For example, my policy around setting up a placement report card for students, particularly in education, medicine, that go to placements and have experienced, in many sad cases, abuse or bullying or threats. And I want there to be an easier system for them to report this. I want them to have their voice heard without them having to jump through hoops, without having to manage the university's bureaucracy, so that the university can look after its students. And it's this idea that students deserve a university and an SRC that protects them from abuse, that protects them from any sort of harm they could come to physically, mentally, educationally. And that's what my policies are all about. And that's the core of my candidacy and my vision over the last 4 years of working for students. I think my presidency would be different from Swapnik's because I would work very hard to stay on top of student issues before they become catastrophes. I think a good SRC is one that most of the work students don't know about, and that most of the work on big issues happens before they become big issues, and that puts the needs of students at the center of what we do and is listening from the beginning, so that we tackle special considerations before it becomes a full-blown crisis. We tackle any sort of issue that arises around student health, student well-being, before they become such a crisis that the university and the SRC is compelled to act, before it's written about in ONI, before it's written about in Pulp, so that students have that advocacy before they need help. I'm referring to presidencies over the last few years, particularly in regard to austerity measures, in regard to the COVID crisis. It's all been slightly one step behind. The SRC always struggling to catch up. But I have tried to have a very proactive leadership in everything that I've tried to do already, and to stay on top of issues before they become major struggles for students. And it's that sort of proactive ambition for student interests that I will bring to the presidency of the SRC. I'll keep them at the center of everything I try to achieve, and I will ensure that council and the executive work towards students' best interests. I think I'm the better overall candidate because I have a passionate, diverse, and clear vision for the SRC. It is a left-wing vision. It is a vision that will see the university become a better place for students, that will see the university become a place that supports students long-term, so that they aren't investing in the burning of our futures, so that they aren't investing in conflicts that create struggles for students and for the world overall. And it's a vision for the SRC and for the university that really makes students the priority of the Student Representative Council. And I really want to represent students on a much larger scale than I have, and to bring my work, my vision, everything that I've tried to achieve these last 4 years to a much larger scale, so that I can serve the entire UCID community and to bring the best outcomes for students. I think if there's any one advantage, it is incumbency. There is behind her in this moment an experience of the status quo and an experience of how the SRC works as it is now. But I would say that is also one of my strengths, in not having the status quo ingrained in what I want to do and what I want to bring to the SRC. I can bring a vibrant new vision. I can create change, and I'm not going to be biased or hampered by what has been done before. But I will, of course, respect the SRC's tradition as a long-standing and highly influential student council and student union across the country. And I will build on that. I will build on that legacy and bring it to new achievements for students, and to make sure it really does everything that it possibly can to make students' lives easier at university. I'd just like to say to students and to the broader USyd community that I have worked so hard over the last 4 years to try and make students' lives easier. I've dedicated so much of myself, so much of my time and my energy, because I do care. I really do care about what students are feeling, because I felt it all. I've struggled to pay rent because I've had work loss. I've struggled to eat because I have to pay rent. And I know what it's like to be so worried about how to exist that study becomes nearly impossible. And then to have to jump through the hoops of the university just to try and pass my subjects, just to try and get through without losing a fortune in fees. And it's this experience, this lived experience of students, of regular students, that I will bring to the SRC presidency. And that's why I will put students at the core of everything I do, because I know what it's like to struggle, and I know what it's like to have a hard time. And I know that the SRC and the university can do better.